The Unexplained Hour deals with mature subject matter and may contain language not suitable for all audiences.
Welcome back to the Unexplained Hour, where we talk about all things paranormal, conspiracy theory, and supernatural. I'm Red. That's my mom, Cher. How we doing?
I'm all right, Red. What do we have today? I'm thrown by the outfit.
You know, first of all, I would just like to say that if you know me, you know that this is not
unusual.
Far out of
it's not
the realm
unexplained.
of what I'm accustomed to wearing. You know what I mean? So. No, I decided since you were doing your thing with university logos and university sweatshirts. I see JMU today.
That's
Let's go.
right.
Let's go.
My sister went to JMU.
Let's see. So I decided I would start kind of doing my own thing. So like depending on the episodes itself, I would throw in a little something. So
I like a theme.
I went kind of with my like a hippie vibe, I guess, like a spiritual kind of vibe because of what you had brought today in terms of content.
I see. Oh, you're going to match your uniform to the content.
So that's what I'm going to attempt to do going forward. So we'll see how that goes.
I like it.
Also, I love these glasses because like you can't see.
Yeah,
my
I can't tell if you're looking at me or not.
Yeah. So really, I'm just not. Yeah.
You're just not there.
How many fingers?
You're an idiot.
It doesn't work with me because I'm not.
It doesn't work that way.
All
right, what is the topic today?
So this is a really interesting one because there's levels to it that I believe in.
Okay.
And there's levels to it that I don't.
Okay.
And which I love. I love topics like that.
Sure.
I love the ones that are not clean cut and dry like
Bigfoot. Sorry. Go ahead.
You see how she did that? You see, real quick. It's just a one.
Continue. I apologize. I'll stop interrupting.
No, it's
Continue.
fine. No, like I like topics that are not clean cut. Yes or no. I like topics that there are elements of it that I could see being true, and I like topics that are that have effort. So I'm like, nah, it's horseshit.
Right.
I like topics like that, and this one is one that has a mixture of both. Talking about reincarnation.
Yep.
The concept of a cycle of birth and rebirth in different lives. Yep. And I like that.
Yep.
I like the concept of it.
Okay, great.
You know, I was raised Catholic.
Yep.
So, you know, I grew up with that.
Uh-huh.
And the older I got, I kind of didn't.
Right.
You know, so I have a very I don't really know how to describe it. It's like a mixture of like what is it? I think it's like Utilitarianism, Unitarianism, or something like
Unitarian.
It's like a mixture of multiple religions and concepts into one. So I kind of have a little bit of that, plus a bit of science mixed in with it too, as a numbers point to like the concept of religion or faith or something like that. So I know you had brought some evidence of sorts, and I did my best to do the same. I don't have, with the exception of one, I don't have any like real honest to God cases of it.
Okay. Well, why don't you give us a little bit of your tell me what you're thinking about.
So my thought
when somebody says reincarnation, what do you think?
So immediately I go to the religion itself that kind of brought the idea into the worldview, which is Buddhism, right?
All right.
Hinduism. Mm-hmm. Hinduism, and I think parts of Buddhism have it in there too. But you know, it's the idea that your actions in this life will lead to who you are, what you are in the next life, eventually hoping to achieve a spiritual enlightenment of nirvana to then move on and become one with the universe, right?
Right.
And I vibe with that.
Great.
I like the idea of it. But I also see the evidence and I see the value in the concept of a recycle of souls.
Okay.
So bear with me.
I'm bearing.
About to get crazy here. You ready?
All right, I'm ready.
So I put forth to you this concept that there are no new souls.
Okay.
There are no new souls. There are no new souls being created. There are a finite version of there are a finite number of souls in the universe,
All right?
That being said, those souls, because the concept of a soul is that it is pure energy.
Right.
Right. It's pure energy.
Right.
It's the vehicle of life. It's what gives a person life. It's what gives people experiences, things like that.
Right.
And if it is pure energy, by the laws of physics, energy can either be created or destroyed. It can only be transition.
That's right.
So I put forth to you the concept of the well of souls.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of it?
I haven't.
So the idea of the well of souls is one that's been kind of formulated for a while. I think it actually appears in certain aspects of the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Okay.
It turns up in the Torah once or twice. I think it's actually referenced in Revelations as well.
Wow.
And variations of it in a few other religious icons or a few other religious points. The core concept is that the well of souls is where all of the souls of humanity are recycled through a process that strips them of certain identifying markers and then reconstitutes and sends them back into the world.
Back into
so
rotation.
That they can, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So there is that theory. And that's one that I put some stock into simply because of one minor example. It's not proof positive by any means, but the concept of deja vu.
Right.
The concept of I've seen this before. I've done this before.
Right.
And maybe you have. Maybe not
have.
you personally, but maybe a you in a previous life.
Okay.
Or
all right.
even also, this might melt your brain. What if it all really is just a recycling of the same soul, the same person?
I see.
Forever.
Oh.
So your deja vu of you, I think I've seen this before, is you've done this before. Yeah.
And that previous experience bleeds through into your now.
Or the concept of a parallel universe.
Right. Those blow my mind. I
universe.
Can't get around those.
Like separated by time and space, but bleeding over into each other in certain places. And that's where you get that feeling of deja vu. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. No, that's all new to me.
So
I haven't heard any of that.
That's a concept that I have for it because I like to blend a version of science into where I'm at because I've started talking about this in certain circles in my work every now and again too in the job field where I'll have colleagues that will bring up the conversation of religion or something like that, and I'll just kind of preface by saying this is my own personal opinion,
and we need to make sure that our listeners know this is two people having a conversation about opinion,
right? And I
we
think
are not
that
scholars of any religious or theological.
I'm not a scholar of anything.
No,
really.
I'm not.
Just a guy that has listened to a few people.
I just showed up today and they
yeah.
gave me a microphone.
Yeah, I'm just a guy in sunglasses and a headband. So take it with a grain of salt.
Right,
you know?
Exactly.
But my concept of it is that if you look at things, like I like to look at things in a chronological state. Like I like to look at things in the beginning, the middle, the end. Right.
Right.
So with that being said, if you look at the story of Genesis, right, with the 6 days, because you rest on the seventh, the 6 days that it took God to make everything, right, follows the same, like almost exactly the same chronological tangent of the creation of the universe.
Okay.
So, what's day one? Let there be light.
Right.
The Big Bang.
Right. Oh, I see what you're doing.
The universe being condensed into an area that was smaller than the head of a pin.
Okay.
In a singularity, a point of infinite mass and infinite density, then blows.
Right.
Scattering
everywhere.
Everything all across the universe. Then day 2 was I think making
the light,
making
the
the heavens.
Right.
I think was step 2, day 2.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, making the heavens, the stars, the sky, the night sky, all that. After the Big Bang occurs, then all of the hydrogen and helium atoms that were expanded out then begin to collide together, causing nuclear fusion, which then creates stars.
Got it.
Inside the stars, they're then able to fuse protons and neutrons together to create heavier and heavier atoms, all the way from hydrogen down to iron on the periodic table, which I think is like early 20s in the periodic table.
I didn't take chemistry.
I think it's 20.
It's
somewhere in that
down.
range. So yeah, every element that appears on the periodic table, all the way from 1 to iron, was forged in the core of a star.
Okay.
Every element.
Wow.
Right. So that's day 2, right?
Sure.
Day 3, creating the land, right? Those heavier atoms, once the core of a star becomes full iron, there's no energy in the iron to continue the fusion, which then causes the star to collapse, going supernova, and then scattering those now rich elements across the universe.
Okay.
Larger atoms condense and combine into bigger chunks, and then that becomes dust. The dust becomes rock. The rock becomes asteroids. The asteroids collide into other asteroids, building larger places, larger planets, which then create the land.
The land.
Then what was day 4 was the water, right?
Skip ahead
the
to the
right
water.
amount of hydrogen, the right amount of oxygen connect together to create water molecules that then condense and land on the newly formed planet that is just far enough from the sun to make it liquid water, but not close enough to make it freeze or evaporate if it was evaporate if it was close, or freeze if it was far away.
Right.
Goldilocks zone to make it liquid water, but still be heated by the sun.
Sure.
Right. So then the creatures of the sea are, I think, next. The Cambrian explosion.
Right.
When life begins on planet Earth. All of it exists in the ocean, which then goes from the Cambrian explosion to the Devonian to the Eocene, the Pleistocene, the Cretaceous. That's not in the right order.
Jurassic.
Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous, Eocene, Pleistocene, all the way to on the 6th day when you get man.
Got it.
You get mammals that survive the KT extinction event that then grow into larger animals that eventually become primates that eventually become people. So
too much.
6 days.
All that got done in 6 days.
6 days in the span of an all-knowing, all-powerful deity. 14 billion years in the eyes of a bunch of monkeys that can't really understand it.
I understand it.
So if you think that a god would perceive time in a different way than we would.
There you go.
There you go.
You made your point.
Yeah. I just gave you a theology degree.
You did.
You like that? How about that?
I like that.
I just explained religion from a scientific perspective.
You did a
why
great job.
can't it be two sides of the same coin?
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. Science could be the best
argument,
determining answer that we could have to prove religion exists.
Okay.
We could do, yeah.
You could. You just did.
Yeah. Why can't they go hand in hand? Why do they have to? Why does it have to be one? I think
it always has to be all or nothing with some people.
Why can't evolution be the process of a god creating these animals? We see it in the concept of evolution. For him, it's like, oh, why don't we just take this, and then
put it together
people.
and make this people? That's fascinating.
Couldn't it be the same thing?
That's fascinating.
Yeah. So. How about that?
Your point is it's compelling. However,
I'm sorry. Can you say that one more time, just for the people at home that maybe have not heard that before? I just want to.
I said your point is compelling. I did say it. It's on the record.
Clip
I said
it. Somebody clip that. Send that to me.
Yeah, I did say that.
Clip that. Send that to me, please. Yeah.
Make it my ringtone.
I'll make that my ringtone in the morning.
However.
Yeah. So. Yeah, now that I talked your ear off.
No. I think that's fascinating. It's a great setup for where I'm going to go.
Right. So you have brought to me.
I brought you two specific examples that
of reincarnation
that people point to.
Okay. Yeah. Please.
For reincarnation. But before I go to that, I want to tell you a term I learned. You mentioned déjà vu, which is the feeling of having done this before. Mm-hmm. I have for you the opposite of that, which is called cryptomnesia. Cryptomnesia.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Cryptomnesia is, I'm going to read you the specific definition if I can find it. It is the feeling of when a memory occurs to you, Oh, where did it go? You don't respond to it as a memory. It's the phenomenon of not recognizing the return of a memory, but rather regarding it as a new or an original idea. So an experience that is really should be in your memory bank. You've had this before. You've been here. You've done this. You've tasted this. You've met these people before. To you, it's a clean slate, and it's a fresh idea, and it's a fresh experience.
But in reality, it has happened before.
It's happened to you before in this realm, in this. So cryptomnesia. I have some famous examples of cryptomnesia for you.
Okay.
So J.M. Barrie was the author of Peter Pan. And there's a section where Wendy is sewing Peter's shadow back on.
Yes.
And Peter looks at the shadow that's attached and he says, "How clever am I? Oh, the cleverness of me." He didn't remember that he had had a shadow in his previous life. Oh. So his first reaction to her sewing the shadow on is, "Look how clever." Helen
By the way,
Keller,
that was a dark story.
Yeah, that wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Helen Keller had a famous incident of cryptomnesia where she misinterpreted. Yeah, she wrote a story called The Frost King, and it actually came from a story Margaret Canby had written called The Frost Fairies. Someone had read it to Helen. Most likely it was Annie Sullivan, and she took it all in. And then when it was time for her to write her fictional account of the book called The Frost King, which was a fairy tale.
It was just the same.
It was essentially the same story that Margaret Canby had written. It does say that Helen she had a nervous collapse over it and never wrote fiction again. She was devastated that people would think she would plagiarize. And after it was revealed to her, "Oh, Helen, you've heard this story before where Annie Sullivan had read this to you." It was tucked away, and it was a cryptome.
You'd think that they'd give her a break.
You'd think the editor would have said, "Wait, this sounds familiar."
No, I mean like her specifically. Like,
I know.
Like,
she's
got enough going on.
Robert Louis Stevenson wrote Treasure Island.
Yes, and I just finished reading the book a little while ago.
The Parrot.
Hard read, by the way.
The Parrot.
Yeah.
Is Edgar Allan Poe's Raven. He pulled it right out. Didn't realize he did it. And there are also references to a stockade in that story.
Yeah.
Taken straight from a story called The Masterman.
Huh.
And there were heavy elements of Washington Irving. He didn't intend to plagiarize it.
Yeah.
It was all the cryptomnesia.
Well, that's also just like writing 101.
After a while, you
is
can't
steal
write
from the
something
best.
Totally immersive. But my favorite one of all, Steven Tyler, Aerosmith.
Yeah.
Listening to the radio.
Yeah.
Here's a song called "You See Me Crying."
Oh yeah, I've heard.
He goes to Joe Perry. He's like, "We ought to cover this.
Yeah.
We ought to do this one. Make a cover."
Yeah.
And Joe Perry says, "Dude, that's us.
Dude, that's
that
our
is
song.
Us.
Dumbass.
That is us, dumbass."
Yeah.
All right. Well, here I have for you. So there, cryptomnesia.
Very cool.
I want to tell you, and if you look up here, you'll see the story of the Pollock twins. Now, the first thing I see, these
are
adorable children. They're not identical twins. One of them is 6 and one of them is 11. So I have gone all over the internet to find out if this is really them. And every time I type their names in, this is the photo that comes up. There's going to be another photo in a minute that makes me think this is them.
Okay.
Anyway, this is Jacqueline and Joanna Pollock.
Okay.
They lived with their parents, Florence and John, in Hexham in Britain. A lot of I do a lot that comes from the UK. I don't know if you
just
noticed
love
that.
the UK.
I love
that's
them.
all it is.
I don't love them, but my stories I love. In 1957, Joanna and Jacqueline walk in a church with their friend Anthony, and a car jumps the curb, hits them, kills these two gorgeous girls instantly. Anthony dies on the way to the hospital. All right. The woman,
great start.
It turns out, this woman that hit them was under the influence of drugs. She just had her own children taken away by the courts because she was an unfit mother. And she decided to go out that day and just wreak havoc on anyone that she could.
Great.
She hits
Sounds
the
like a real
Pollock
stable
girls.
individual.
Well, she did end up in an insane asylum.
There you go.
So Florence and John are obviously just inconsolable, devastated.
Yeah.
Well, within a year, Florence is pregnant again.
Okay.
And John,
Silver
they
lining.
were both devout Catholics.
Yes.
Now, the Catholic Church teaches against reincarnation. The Catholic Church teaches that one soul, one go.
Right.
That's it.
You only get one.
They only get the one.
Everybody
so
gets
you
one.
Better make it good.
Yeah.
So John gets it into his head that the girls, this pregnancy is going to result in twin girls who are going to be Jacqueline and Joanna come back. And
he
Florence
had
is
this premonition.
John says this to her. She's like, no, the ultrasound is showing us one. Well, at the time it was just a heartbeat monitor.
Right.
Showing us one baby, one heartbeat. John, I know you're inconsolable, as am I.
Right.
In October 4th, 1958, Florence gives birth to twin girls. Here they come now. This is Jillian and Jennifer. Okay? They were twins. Identical twins.
What?
Now, these twins had different birthmarks, which is highly unusual in identical twins. Jennifer had a birthmark on her right hip, and it was similar to the birthmark that Jacqueline had on her right hip. She also had a birthmark on her forehead, which was similar to a scar that Jacqueline had on her forehead.
Oh.
Well, when the twins are 3 months old, they move from Hexham,
right,
which rhymes, Hexham, to Whitley Bay.
Okay.
And as the girls get older, of course, they were 3 months old when they left Hexham.
Yeah.
They remembered their life in Hexham.
Oh.
Okay. So after they're 4, they move back to Hexham.
Okay.
And they were able to name and respond to landmarks that they had never seen before. They didn't live in this town growing up. They left as 3-month-old babies. Now they're back. They recognize everything. They recognize the school, the Hexham Abbey, where Jacqueline and Joanna had gone to school. They recognize the playground and reference the playground. Well, we've been here before. This is the playground where we've played in the past. They knew their surroundings. So Florence had never talked, the parents had never talked about the older girls to Jillian and Jennifer.
Right, kind of a hard sell to be like, hey, you used to have 2 sisters.
They had 4 older brothers. You need to know that. That comes back.
Oh, so they had more
siblings. They had 6 children.
Got it.
2 died. They had 2 more.
Got it.
Now, keep in mind that the first 2 girls were not twins. They were 11 and 6.
But they looked like twins.
They looked identical, which is why I really wasn't sure that was them until when in a moment you're going to see.
Right.
So she brings toys down out of the attic as they're age appropriate. As the girls are getting older, she brings down the girls, Jacqueline and Joanna's toys.
Right.
Immediately, Jennifer goes for the toys that belong to the one sister while Jillian goes to the other toys. They never fought over the toys. They divided them up as their sisters had divided them up. And they acted like they'd seen them before. They knew which ones were from Santa and which ones were from family members. They even acted – so the older girl's 10 minutes up older. But they took on those same personalities. It said that Jillian looked after her sister the way Joanna did. And they often, mirrored that mother-baby image. The older sister would mother. Same scenario here. But, I mean, that happens in every family, right? They like the same games. They like the same food. So all up until this, Florence wasn't really buying the reincarnation. John, of course, he knew there were
all
gonna
this
be
evidence,
twins.
And she's like,
all this. She still didn't believe it until one day she walked in on them playing. They were playing Car Accident, and Jillian is laid down. Jennifer's cradled in Jillian's lap, and Jillian's sister heard the blood's coming out of your eyes where the car hit you. Okay, right. So Jillian is able to point to the birthmark on her forehead, and she says, "This is the mark that Jacqueline got when she fell on the bucket." All right. So the twins are terrified of cars, and they had these reoccurring nightmares all through their childhood about being hit by a car. And they would grab each other in terror, and they would scream, "The car is coming to get us." Right? So as the girls get older, these memories start to fade, and there's a photo. Now, this is how I know that this is the real deal. The next photo shows us the two girls as they're adults holding. So that's how I knew I didn't goof it up. I thought this is just a stock photo of twins. It's not. This is Jillian and Jennifer holding a photograph of Jacqueline and Joanna. That's how I knew that I had the right photo. You can even see their facial expressions. The smiling sister, and the more dour-looking, sad sister. All right. So then the memories start to fade when they're like 5, and they stop having the Well, the one died at 11 and the one died at 6, so obviously those memories came to an end, right, for those girls.
And now they're making new ones.
Right. So she did it. The only last memory was Jillian had a remembrance of playing in a sand pit in Wickham. Wickham, where they had never been. They'd never been to Wickham.
Right.
She described the house, the garden. It matched the home where Joanna had lived with Jacqueline when they were 4. When she was 4, sorry. So, you're a believer, right? Totally sold on the whole thing. No. They had 4 older brothers that knew the dead girls, right?
Oh, yeah. I didn't
They
even think of
probably
that.
fed them without even realizing it. Oh,
Yeah.
that was Jacqueline's. Oh, Joanna used to love that.
Think about that.
She had a scar. She fell in a bucket.
Yeah.
So most skeptics say that everything, the parents swear they never talked about the dead girls. Never talked about the dead girls.
Probably did.
But the older brothers, without meaning to, probably fed them little snippets or bits and said, oh, Santa, Father Christmas gave that to Joanna when she was 2 or 3.
Damn.
So they most likely learned what they learned from the older boys. It's a good story, though, isn't it?
That is a incredible story.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had completely left out the part about
the older brothers. Yeah.
I would have been.
You would have been hook, line, and
sinker.
sinker.
I was looking at that the whole time. I was like, oh, this is it.
Now, the fact that the dad was convinced that they would be twins and that they would be girls.
Which is interesting. I mean,
they couldn't have known that.
Right.
In 1958, we didn't have ultrasound. No. I worked with a woman who had twin boys, and I said, how did you know? She said, they took an X-ray, and there were 2 skeletons, 2 little... So that's how you would know.
Are bad
but
for
you
babies.
can't. X-rays are bad.
I think.
But he wouldn't have. How could he have known they would have been twin girls?
Lucky guess.
That's a 50-50, I suppose. Yeah.
But
so, I will tell you that this whole reincarnation thing he had really hooked into.
Yeah.
It caused tremendous problems in the marriage. So much so that she was almost on the verge of divorcing him before these girls were born.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well,
but it's a great story and it's sad as hell.
That's an insane story.
But,
I mean, isn't there like a higher rate of divorce after the death of a child?
I would imagine
I would kind of figure there would be.
It would have to be.
Yeah.
But he was firmly convinced. Now, I will tell you that the reason I picked this one. So I listened to a podcast called The Sisters.
Yeah.
It is dramatized. It is absolutely fictionalized. It's actors. It's sound effects. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And the season that brought me here is about this. It's very long, but it's very good. And they bring this in. And there's an element of satanic. This woman she's a museum curator, and somebody sends her this find.
Yeah.
And she's in the midst of trying to verify this find and get it ready for display in her museum.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole caper and the thing and the thing.
Caper,
and the thing.
You say?
There's a caper. I do love a caper.
I do love
and off to the side, we're in 2 different time. We're in the now with this lady at the museum, and then we go back in time to the UK with a family who has twin girls who lost their older daughters. In that story, the older daughters were twins.
Yes.
And it turns out the mother was like, no, these are not reincarnated, honey. I know you want them to be. And then the story unfolds and you're like, wow. It's dramatized, but it's based very loosely on this story.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's
insane.
Cryptomnesia. So that's interesting too, because the concept of cryptomnesia of like, you think in the moment that it's a friend, like, like this coffee mug.
You're going to drink out of that cup.
Right. So imagine that I've already had a memory of me having this cup, that I've already owned this cup. I've had this cup forever. I've had this cup for 10 years. Right. Right. But then one day I'm like, oh, this is the best cup.
How have I
never seen this before?
Yeah, or you see that cup in a shop and you're like, that is gorgeous. I have to have it.
Right. I don't have anything that's like that.
Yeah, and you bring it home and your wife's like,
it's exactly the same.
11 others just like it. Yeah. So it's the reverse of the deja vu.
Right. And that, I think, could be explained by the fact that, forgetfulness is part of a healthy mind.
Sure.
Right?
You want to block out.
It's easy. Well, it's good to forget like traumatic incidences. Or it's good to forget certain things. But it's also, your brain is pulling in so much data
all at one time.
Once.
Sure.
The feeling of the air on your arms, or the remembering to blink or breathe, all the involuntary, like the feeling of the peristalsis in your organs and in your intestines. Like your brain is blocking out all of this shit because it's not useful
stimuli.
Information to you right now.
Right.
And it does that with everything else that's going on. Like it honestly. In your peripherals right now, you can conduct this experiment right now. In your peripherals, what do you see?
Well, I can see the board.
Okay.
I know Andy's there, but I can't see him.
Right. So
I can see the records above your head.
Yeah. So your peripheral vision
Yeah.
is really only an adaptation that's used for you to determine movement and important information that's happening around you, so that in the wild you're not going to have something sneak up on you.
Yes,
that's what that's there for.
Then you take that data and you make a decision on whether you're going to run it down, pursue it, or ignore it.
Right. So in my peripheral right now, I know that there is something in the corner right over there that has words or something on it.
Right.
My brain is not going to discern what the lettering is or what it is because it finds that it's not important.
At this time, it's deemed unnecessary.
Exactly.
Right.
Your brain is constantly pulling in so much data, and then it's pulling it all out again because it realizes that some of it isn't useful.
Right.
So that, I think,
you
could
just
very
made my
easily
point.
Explain what that is.
You just made my point.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, by the way, I wasn't trying to say that your point was
wrong.
No,
this is me. Yeah. This is me telling you that this is fake.
Yeah.
All right. Now that would have been an unintentional fake.
Okay. Yeah.
They were
probably
children.
Again, if you had told me that if you had told me that the boys weren't involved,
if you didn't have brothers,
that would have been it for me.
Well,
you know what I mean?
or they were orphaned and raised by people who didn't know their story.
And also,
that would have been a good one. Yeah.
One other thing too that I forgot to mention about that I just remembered is the concept of genetic memory.
Yes.
Have I ever told you?
I wanted to see if you were going to bring this one up.
Yes. So the concept of genetic memory is that the idea that memory itself is really only a connection of electrical stimuli between the synapses in your brain, collecting information and then storing it for later use. The things that seem important to you at the time, like water is a very important thing that I need to drink. It's it's super helpful for me. Or, the outside of this pineapple is spiky. I remember that it is so that I won't pick it up with my bare hands. Right. That memory is useful. But there's also the concept of genetic memory, which other animals have. Like animals instinctively know how to hibernate.
Right.
Animals instinctively, like birds, instinctively know how to fly south.
Swim.
Animals instinctively know how to swim, how to do all this.
Build a den.
Instinctual.
Versus behavioral.
Right. Instinctual behavior is comparative to genetic memory.
Okay, yeah.
Meaning that
I believe that.
There is encoded in our DNA is not just the building blocks to create a protein or an enzyme or something like that, but there's also the blueprints of how think of it like a computer system. When you're building a computer system or you're building an operating system, you have to start from scratch. You have to build the system itself, the parameters, the things like that. But the end goal is that you want to know how the system itself will function.
Right.
And there will be certain things that the function that the system will do once it's operational.
Right.
It's right there in the blueprint.
Okay.
It's like it's like building a car.
Sure.
You know, the hydraulics might be different, the tires might be different, the frame, the this, the that, the control panel, the whatever. But the ultimate goal while you're building it is to know this car will go.
It will run.
This car will run, and the car will go.
Transport people.
Car go.
Car go.
Car go.
Right.
So it's.
I think it's valid.
I think that there's some
science.
There's some
that.
evidence to support that the concept of genetic memory. Now, does that occur in humans? Probably.
Maybe so.
That newborn babies instinctively know to pull their head above water.
Right.
Or that
to cry.
Or to cry. Or to know that, like your inner ear with balance and things like that. To know.
Right.
There are instinctual
throw your
things
arms out when you're falling.
Yeah. Or an instinctual fear for certain things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's possible that that's in there.
I think that's valid. I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that these people set out to pull one over.
Nor do I. At least not the
little girls,
this
no.
family. No.
However,
I
want to
always
tell
love
you,
when there's a
I do
however.
love a however. This is the story of Bridie Murphy. Now, when I was a kid, I read this book and I was 100% in. I was like, oh my gosh, yes to everything.
Brian Murphy?
Bridie Murphy.
Is that her there?
That's her.
Okay.
Well, no, that's not her, but she wants you to think that's her. This is actually Virginia Tighe. Her pseudonym was Ruth Simmons because when things really exploded, they had to give her a pseudonym.
Oh, shit. So
This
goes south.
This goes quickly south.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Hit me with it.
Cryptomnesia,
Yes.
which I described to you before, the returning of an old memory, but it is regarded as a new original thought or idea.
Yes.
All right. So in 1952, an amateur hypnotist named Maury Bernstein puts this woman under hypnosis.
Okay.
She's a Virginia Tighe.
Yes.
Tighe. I Googled it, and the pronunciation was Tighe.
Tighe.
So we're going to go with that.
Okay.
She lived in Pueblo, Colorado. She was a housewife.
Pueblo.
Under hypnosis, however,
Yes.
she claimed to be a 19th century Irish woman named Bridie Murphy. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Bridie Murphy. Okay.
She said that in 1806, when she was 8 years old, she lived in a house in Cork.
Okay.
She was the daughter of Duncan Murphy and
Okay.
his wife Kathleen.
Very Irish.
Duncan Murphy was a barrister. It's also known as a lawyer.
I was going to say, remind me what that is.
lawyer.
A lawyer.
A lawyer.
He's a lawyer.
At the age of 17, Bridie married Sean Bryan McCarthy.
These can't get any more Irish.
I know, right? Yeah. Which is weird because she said her last name was Murphy, so already I'm finding a hole in her story.
Yeah.
All right. No, she was born Bridie Murphy, so Murphy was her maiden name. She married McCarthy. He was a barrister.
He was also a barrister.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So Bridie said that
pattern.
Sean taught at Queen's University, Belfast, where they moved after living in Cork. So that's going to be in the north of the country.
Yeah.
Under hypnotic regression, Virginia here, our girl, described a fall that Bridie had, which caused her death in 1864.
A fall.
A fall.
Okay.
A tumble.
She took a tumble.
She took a spill.
Ass over tea kettle.
I guess it was ass over tea kettle because it killed her.
Yeah.
She describes her own funeral. She described her tombstone. She described the state of death as being neither pleasure nor pain. There was no happiness. There was no sorrow. She was just being.
Okay.
All right?
Doesn't sound too bad, I guess.
59 years later,
Yes.
she's reborn in America in the year 1923.
Yes.
And she's now Virginia Tighe. Right here you see her.
Yes.
So this woman, Virginia May Reese, born 1923, she's never been to Ireland.
Yes.
She doesn't speak with an accent. She doesn't have a brogue. Bridie had a very heavy brogue.
Yes.
This woman here used, as she's channeling Bridie,
Yes.
she's using Irish expressions that were not common in the 19th century.
But they were common in
1952, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
So in 1956, so this is an example of, oh my God, let's run with it.
Yeah.
This guy immediately writes a book. 1952, he hypnotizes her.
Yes.
She says, oh, I'm Bridie Murphy, with her thick brogue.
He's like, give me everything
Immediately,
you got.
we got a book. We're getting a book out of this. It's
Yeah.
called The Search for Bridie Murphy. It's the one I read.
Oh, okay.
As a child, a middle school,
Yeah.
high school child
Yeah,
person. So the book is an absolute smash.
Mm-hmm.
It absolutely just rocks
Yeah.
the culture.
Yeah.
And people are throwing Bridie Murphy themed parties. Come as you were, not come as you are, come as you were.
That's cute. I like
and
that.
when people would have babies, they would make these little banners that said welcome back. Right?
That's cool.
There was even a drink called the Reincarnation. It was a cocktail. So I looked it up, and oddly enough, it's two very different recipes. This one says it's got OJ, lemon juice, white rum, and champagne, which, no, thank you.
I mean,
The other one had vodka, dry curacao,
Curacao.
quinine vermouth, absinthe, and fever grass. I wouldn't drink that either.
Quinine.
Quinine. Anyway,
Quinine.
we had popular songs recorded. The Ballad of Bridie Murphy, The Love of Bridie Murphy, Do You Believe in Reincarnation? And even a film
Believe in
not in magic, in reincarnation. In
Love After
1956, a film comes out called I've Lived Before.
Damn, they really ran with
They
this
went
shit,
hard on this.
Okay.
So much so they had to give her the pseudonym Ruth Simmons. She couldn't go out in public.
Because she was just getting so much publicity from this. Yeah.
Here's the thing. Nobody did any background research on this.
Mm-hmm.
I told a story. You loved it. You made a book. Now we got a movie. We got a drink.
Yeah.
We got it all.
Yeah.
It was...
Turns out.
All right. Turns out.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
She, Bridie Murphy, this is her timeline.
Has...
Her timeline.
DID.
She was... No. That would have been good. No. She was born December 20th, 1798 in Cork, and she died in 1864.
Okay.
There's no record of anyone with that name been born in any of those years. There's no evidence of the house that she lived in, which she called the Meadows. There's no house called the Meadows in Cork.
Mm-hmm.
She described in detail the home she was born in and lived in. She described it as wooden. Houses in Ireland in that time were made completely of stone.
I was going to say.
She said her husband's name was Sean. S-E-A-N. She called him Sean. Yeah. Even a first grader knows that's Sean.
Come on.
So that was an obvious rookie error. Queen's University, Belfast, where Cian was the barrister, it didn't exist at the time Bridie said that her husband worked there.
And also, a man from Cork wouldn't be caught dead in Belfast.
They moved to Antrim, which is interesting. I'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah,
but at the time,
just saying.
Why would a man from Cork
just saying
go to Belfast?
Yeah.
He didn't work at, well, if he did, he didn't work at the time. She says he did.
Yeah.
In 1845 was when Queen's University, Belfast was formed. She also referred to Cian as Brian. Remember, his name was Sean Brian McCarthy?
Yeah.
All right. She referred to him as Brian, which was his preferred name.
Yes.
Coincidentally, Brian was the same name of Virginia Teague's husband. Right. She said that Bridie attended St. Teresa's Church. It had not been built yet. St. Teresa's Church was not built till 1911. Bridie died in 1864.
Damn.
So many holes. This guy didn't do any research. The only things she got right were the coastline of Antrim. She was able to describe it. All you got to do is look at a map, look at a photograph. I could describe it. I've never been there either.
Exactly.
And her trip from Cork to Belfast, Belfast to Cork, she was able to correctly describe that trip.
Again, just look at a map.
She also said that Bridie's grocer's name was Mr. Farr, F-A-R-R.
Yep.
There is proof that there was a grocer of that same name in that time.
Okay.
All right.
So
now, rather than looking into Bridie's history, let's look into Virginia's history, this woman that you see in front of you.
Yeah.
All right. We go back through Virginia's history, and here's what we find. Virginia Ruth,
yes,
was brought up by her Norwegian uncle and his German Scotch-Irish wife.
Got you.
Virginia's birth parents were both Irish. She only lived with them until she was 3 years old.
Okay.
For the remaining time, she was brought up by her uncle.
Okay.
The woman across the street's name was Bridie Murphy Corkle. She immigrated to the U.S. in 1908. Mm-hmm. Now, despite the fact that Virginia said she didn't know Mrs. Corkle's maiden name was Murphy, the neighbor's unmarried maiden sister, Margaret Murphy, lived there until the 1930s. So it's kind of hard to believe that you didn't know that she was Bridie Murphy Corkle. Virginia spoke with a brogue only when she was in plays in high school as a teenager, so she could do it.
Yeah.
This is a classic case of cryptomnesia, given those are the only explanations for Virginia's memories.
Yeah.
Virginia's past life as Bridie Murphy and Murphy's storyline are coincidental, and many, many people say that her claim is disproved.
Yeah.
It's not real. But they went to the nth. They made a movie.
Really
they wrote a book. The guy didn't do his
Yeah.
research. He didn't check his sources.
So
it's fake. I'm sorry.
But you know what?
So fake.
I can absolutely see that.
I mean, I can understand the obsession.
Yeah,
right?
and I can see where the cryptomnesia comes into play, because hypnosis, bullshit or no, could potentially pull subconscious memories or subconscious events into a story that would make sense for you.
Yeah. And in the 50s, all the rage, people latched on. Well, we do it now. We latch on to things. TikTok trends.
Oh, yeah.
You see a TikTok once, and then next thing you know, you see 8 more where people are mimicking it. So it's
and also
it's
too.
cultural.
I mean, with benefit of the doubt to so many folks, people are dumb. The vast majority of people are just fucking dumb.
Oh, yeah, people bought into it.
They will believe whatever they hear.
Wrote a book, made a movie.
Yes.
He didn't do his research.
No.
What good author?
All you really have to do.
Maury Bernstein.
Yeah, I'll give you the key. And here's the thing, and you should know this too. Here's the key, right? The best way to sound like you know what you're talking about is this, right? Just speak clearly, memorize a few big words, and you'll be a genius in no time.
You're confident.
That's really, yeah.
That's really, and make a lot of eye contact.
They will believe.
It's really how it happened.
They'll
believe whatever you're selling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Now,
I don't know if this lady wanted to be, if he planted these memories.
Right.
But the across the street neighbor's name was Bridie Murphy.
The absolute sheer odds of that. And I get that she probably didn't do it on purpose.
Maybe not.
But I will say that, make up a better lie.
He could have just checked his resources and saved. But we wouldn't know who she was.
In the 50s.
Bridie Murphy. Yeah. When now you'll know.
Well, now you know.
Now you know.
Yeah.
So that's unexplained, in my opinion. Is there reincarnation? I don't believe in it.
Yeah.
But
it's interesting to think about.
It's interesting, of course.
And I think that it's, there's just so much when it comes to like spirituality in general.
Sure.
There's so much that we don't know about. It's one of the biggest mysteries ever, right? Is what happens after we die? What's the point of all of that? All the meaning
people want to know,
whatever. So my again, I look at it from a very scientific standpoint.
Yep.
There's actually some circumstantial evidence to say that a soul does exist.
Oh yeah, I believe that.
Based primarily on the fact that after autopsies or after after a body has
photos.
Well, there's that, and also there's about a gram and a half, or maybe a little bit more.
Oh yeah,
that is missing from a body in terms of weight that cannot be explained by the expulsion of gases or fluids or breath or whatever.
Sure.
There is some weight that is lost that cannot be determined. And that's science. I mean, that's fact.
That's science.
That's science. That's fact.
Numbers.
You can't, there's no denying that, right?
Yeah.
What I will say is, it's up to everybody's interpretation.
Sure.
I truly, the older I get, the more I think that whatever you get in the end, whether that be a good, bad, or just fall asleep and that's it. I think that really all it boils down to is your assumptions, because your brain can do, even if you don't put stock in a religion, or even if you don't put stock in reincarnation or whatever, I think that in the end, if it's from a pure scientific standpoint, I think that you get what you get at the end based on your assumptions, because your brain is capable of doing incredible things.
Sure.
Your brain can make you think that there's people in the room when there aren't people in the room.
Sure.
It can regress. It can create
also
multiple
shut off
personalities.
pain.
It can shut off pain. It can do all these incredible things for you. So I think that whenever your brain does shut off, I think that it gives you what you hope for, or what you think you deserve in the end.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good way to look at it.
That's just my personal belief. In some cases, in others, I don't know.
John Pollock really wanted to believe that those girls were back.
Yeah. Again, it's all based on
no
your
fault of
assumptions.
those little girls.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's
is
an excellent. Yeah, that's a good place to stop. Unexplained.
But I do think too, and again, it's important to mention that it's our own assumptions, and if you, whatever you believe in, if it's your thing, if you really hold on to it, don't let anybody tell you that you're wrong.
No, absolutely not.
If you really hold on to it,
stay with it.
So long, I mean, that's kind of what I admire about religion as a whole.
Oh yeah,
is that the vast majority of it is not.
You're committed to a belief.
Yeah,
and it makes you part of a community.
Right, and it's also the vast majority of them, at least some of the most popular ones that exist in the world today, like Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism, whatever it is.
It's a common belief that millions of people hold.
And the vast majority of the tenets are just be nice to people.
Right.
Like that's the core belief of many major religions is just be a nice person.
Be decent.
And good things will happen to you.
I feel sorry for the people who, like, obviously in the first story, the family suffered an unimaginable loss.
Yeah.
And then to be given 2 more beautiful daughters.
Right.
But to, for 1 second, stop and think, if they're not reincarnated, they're not Jacqueline and Joanna back again.
Right.
It's 2 totally
different. You got
different.
2 new kids.
It's Jennifer and Jillian, and they are not. Right. To maybe have blurred those lines and not discovered what were they like.
Maybe not. Yeah.
As opposed to, oh, you're back. Thank God you're back. I missed you. I'm glad you're back. But discovering instead, who are these 2 new beings?
That's a very, very interesting point.
You know?
That's a very interesting point. Is that your own assumptions are now causing you to forego the fact that you have 2 new kids.
Yep.
That's a really, really good
And that
point.
made me sad for those 2 kids who grew up in the shadow of these sisters who were taken so early from the mom and the dad and the brothers. But anyway, and without knowing, I think the brothers are the ones that fed it to them. And they didn't intend, but they're famous.
Right, I'm sure it was.
They're famous. You know about them now. We all know about them now.
Yeah.
Bridie Murphy that was just bad.
That's just bad news.
No research done there.
Yeah.
That's anyway, unexplained. That's what I got for you.
I just hope, like many who out there believe in reincarnation, I just hope that it doesn't come back to bite me in the ass.
Yeah, and I hope I don't look stupid by telling you it's one
that
soul, one go.
Yeah. You know what?
Yeah. It's unexplained.
Yeah, it's unexplained.
It's what we're here for.
Yeah. Well, I think that outfit
is groovy.
For another
that
one.
outfit
Thank
is
you.
unexplained.
I had a feeling. It is unexplained. You know what? I like it, and that's all that matters.
Well, you got to tune in next time to find out who I'm repping.
We'll have to figure out what we get next time. Yeah. Well, thank you guys again. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for all the love, all the support. Again, be sure to drop a like, share this video with another friend of yours that believes in reincarnation. You know, if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that bell. Make sure you get notifications when next episodes come through. Drop us a suggestion. Let us know what you guys want to hear next on another episode.
Definitely.
And we'll catch you in the next one. Love you, Mom.
Love you, Red.
Bye.
Bye.